Okay everybody, in today's video we're going to be talking about the Finnish capture, or Finnish marked Swedish Mauser. Not really capture because they were sent over voluntarily by the Swedes as a military aid. And the history between the Swedish Mauser and Finland starts back in 1919 when the Civil Guard bought up about 1,200 of them to use as competition rifles. So by the time that the Winter War rolled around, these already had a pretty good reputation in Finland, and competition shooters would go to Sweden just to get these. And they were a highly revered competition rifle. They actually won a Olympic shooting contest, and I believe it was 1899 or 1900. But these were, you know, very accurate rifles, and at the start of the Russian invasion of Finland, Finland was, you know, in desperate need of military aid. Nobody was coming to their rescue, so the Swedish, along with sending volunteers, sent over 80,000 M96 long rifles and I believe about 900 of the carbines as a military aid. And these rifles basically arrived a little bit too late in most cases to be used in the Winter War. So a lot of them just sat in the crates for a while, and at the conclusion of the Winter War, and then later on at the start of the invasion of Norway, Sweden decided that it's probably a good thing to get as many rifles as they can, just in case, you know, they became the target of an invasion. So they got about 30,000 of these back from the Finns, and I believe even though they were, you know, military aid sent there, that the Swedes actually paid the Finns to get these rifles back. And these didn't really see a whole lot of use in the Winter War, aside from, you know, marksmen that had these, but these would see a decent amount of use in the continuation war, mainly just as sort of rifles for, you know, sort of Coast Guard troops and just rear line guys that didn't really need a standard rifle shooting the standard caliber. So that way, you know, you're not issuing this to guys that need a constant supply of ammo that you don't manufacture. But either way, these are a great rifle, and probably better than most of the you know, rifles that the Finns had, aside from their 27s and 28s, and, you know, later on the M39. But the only way to tell that you do have a Finnish capture is by the SA property mark on the top of the rifle. And this one's an exceptionally nice one. It still has the fire blue on the parts like the bolt release and the sight lever, or the sight slider. And speaking of the sights on this, it's just the same as a standard Swedish Mauser, 300 meters up to 6 in the folded down position, and then when you fold it up, go all the way up to 2,000. And I don't know about bayonet usage for the Finnish captures. I don't know if any were marked with an SA stamp, or if they even sent over any bayonets, but brought one out just to include in the video. And shoots standard 6.5 by 55 Swedish ammo. And so we've got this one. We also got, just since there's not quite as much to talk about with the Finnish use of the Swedish Mauser, a Husqvarna produced M96 long rifle. And these were produced in very small numbers. I believe it was about 3,000 of them made total. And these were only really produced as a civilian marksman's rifle that you could order if you were in Sweden. And Husqvarna, of course, produced a lot of the short rifles, but they did not produce hardly any of the long rifles. And this also has one of the competition sights on it with a dial on the top. And this one's in, you know, very nice condition also. Has more of a blonde stock on it, and you know, all around just the same as a standard Swedish Mauser, other than the rear sight on this one. But just kind of a cool oddity to me, a long rifle made by Husqvarna, and it's pretty much the same as a Carl Gustav or a Mauser Obendorf, but there's a couple differences, including where proof marks are located on these will be on the rear sight slider, and that's because on the Husqvarna receivers, after being blued, it was the receivers were so hard basically that they couldn't put proof marks on the receiver anywhere, so they put them on the underside of the rear sight. And then another interesting thing that I've noted is they'll have serial numbers on the back of the butt plate instead of the kind of tang that sticks out like they do on the standard one. So that's another neat feature with the Husqvarnas. But yeah, just thought we'd include that since it's another interesting variation of Swedish Mauser, but you know, not really different enough for its own video. And yeah, we're going to be shooting PPU 139 grain full metal jacket ammo, and that's probably about all I'm going to say about it, so let's get into shooting them some. Alright, we're going to start out with 5 rounds down at 100 yards. And the sights on this are for 300 meters, so might be a tad high. That's all 5 of them. Alright, here's our group, and it's one on the plate and then the other 4 just off the plate. And it's probably a little bit wider than it should be. That's probably just for me, but you know, all around real nice shooting rifle. Alright, we're going to load up 5 rounds in the Husqvarna down at 100 yards. And the sights on this are actually marked for 100, and we've shot this one before, so hopefully it's shooting a little bit more on. And these sights, if you've never seen them, are pretty nice. If you want to get a Swedish Mauser just to shoot, and you don't really care about, you know, the having it in military configuration, I'd definitely recommend putting one of these sights on it. They're from the time period, and a real nice sight that's, you know, marked from 1 to 700 meters. That's all 5 of them. Alright, here's our group with the Husqvarna, and it's a little bit low, but a tighter group. I believe we, last time we were shooting it, we were shooting, I think, federal ammo, and it hit dead on, so the PPU is just a little bit lower. But you know, really nice group. Alright, we're going to start out with, or do another 5 rounds of, out of the Husqvarna at 100 yards, and we bumped the sight to 150, which I believe this sight is adjustable in 25-meter increments, so that's just kind of why it's really nice, because if you switch between ammo types, you know, you have more of a range of adjustment, whereas on, you know, standard Swedish Mauser sights, you're kind of, you know, left jumping between 300 and 400 meters if you have a difference in ammo. And the trigger on the Husqvarna is also a lot nicer than the standard Husqvarna trigger, or standard Carl Gustaf triggers, which I don't know if that's just our particular example or just how all of them were. That's all of them. Alright, here's our next group, and got 2 on the plate, and then 2 just off, and then 1 flyer that's, might be for me, but I think that's just PPU ammo. You know, it's not the highest quality of production, but makes for good just range ammo, because it's cheap. But yeah, another pretty good group. Alright, we're going to load up final 4 rounds, and good reason to always check your ammo is one of the rounds in that box of 6.5 Swedish was 7.5 by 55 Swiss, so good reason to always check your ammo you get from the gun show. That's all of them. Alright, here's our next group, and one just barely skimmed the top of the plate, and the other 3 just above. But another real nice group out of the Finnish capture. Alright, that's going to be it for the video. We had a lot of fun with the Finnish marked Swedish Mauser and the Husqvarna Swedish M96. And these are, you know, just real cool variation of it that you can find, and you know, they usually go for a little bit more than the standard Swedish Mausers, kind of like a, you know, 10 to 15% increase in price usually, just because of the SA mark, which if you're just looking for one to shoot, you know, wouldn't really bother looking for one that is a Finnish capture or Finnish marked. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the video. If you want to see any more out of this one or any of our other Swedish Mausers, let us know in the comments, and we'll catch you in the next one.